Scott Fox, and in this episode, I'm going to tell you up front, it's going to be a shorter one because I've got a charity obligation today, and that's one of the things that I always prioritize. You know, we talked the other day about volunteering, how FIFA wants people to step up and volunteer for civic pride to go and work at the FIFA World Cup. I don't think that's civic pride. I think it's civic pride and giving back to your community when you help out community organizations. So that's part of what I'm doing today. It's something I've always done, and I don't envision I'll ever stop doing that. There's great causes around here that need funds and need awareness, so that's what I'm doing. So I apologize. This is going to be a slightly shorter episode, and I'm going to cover a lot of things. To do part of that, here for just a little bit, I'm going to bring in the great Anna Almeida. Anna, I know you're on a clock now, too.
Yeah, my dog's not feeling well, so I got to take him to a vet. And because we've moved here, I don't have a vet. So I had to look for it yesterday. And then thankfully, somebody was able to get us in first thing today. So that's where I'm headed after.
First question, what's wrong with the dog? What's wrong with Maxie?
I think he has an ear infection, but his eyes are swollen, and I don't know if he has allergies. His skin has changed, like his fur has changed quite a bit. But yesterday, I really noticed it when I got home. He's not himself, and he seems like he's in pain, and I don't want to just give him anything, and I'm not a vet. And so, but I know that it's going to cost me a pretty penny, but he's worth it.
Totally. Our animals are, right? We prioritize that sort of stuff. I'm going to follow up on a couple of things with you before you got to go, and I want you to leave if you have to, because I know Max is a priority for you and for me as well. So get him to the vet and get him the care he needs. But while you're here, let's talk about a couple of things. I've been hearing from flight attendants. Some of them with Air Canada, some of them not. Ooh. And this was a topic that came up in yesterday's episode, because one of the things I want to understand is I've heard Air Canada flight attendants and their union now saying, hey, we don't get paid for doing all this extra stuff here. We don't get paid until the door closes and the plane pushes back. That's when we start getting paid. But as you know, you see those flight attendants in the airport working. They're part of the boarding process. They have a lot of work to do. And I thought that's unfair that they don't get paid for that. What's going on here? And why is this the first I've heard of it? Contracts usually go in 4 or 5 year cycles, sometimes 3 years. Back in 2020 and 2021 and 2022, I don't remember this being an issue. So at some point, these flight attendants must have agreed to do that. So why is this an issue now? If they agreed to it just 3 years ago to not get paid for that period, what's going on? I did get some good info.
Oh, good.
I was told by one person who wanted to remain anonymous that in the last contract, they had a choice. They could get paid for those things, or they could take an hourly wage increase for the time that they are in the air or pushed back, and they opted for the latter. Okay. That's good to know. Then I got another one here from a real good friend of mine who is a former flight attendant. And this is what I'm told. This person worked for Emirates Airlines. They pay a monthly base pay to cover the cabin crew, plus money for layovers to buy food and things like that. And of course, their accommodation is taken care of, their transfers and stuff when they're away. You get paid chalks off to chalks on, meaning when the plane pushes back is when you start getting paid. The monthly base pay covers all the stuff you do beforehand. And no, the cabin crew do not clean the planes afterwards. Now, that's not to say the flight attendants don't have to stay on the plane. If there's a medical emergency, weather delays and things like that, that's a little bit different. So I asked the question, are flight attendants, do they have a point here? Or is this a spin to the public to get the public on their side? And the response was, it depends how much they're getting paid, to be honest. Emirates is top of the line. Air Canada is bottom of the food chain. Emirates also paid for your accommodation. So the short answer is, each airline has a different deal. I'm not entirely sure what Air Canada's deal is. However, it does seem unreasonable that they don't get paid for that work. However, if there's an overall base pay that's meant to cover that work you do before the flight actually takes off when you go to your hourly rate, then that might compensate. All I'm saying here is, and I still support the flight attendants, I think you should get paid for work. If you work even a minute, you should get paid for it. But there might be a little more to this story. And if anybody else wants to slide into my DMs anonymously, if you'd prefer, please let me know what the actual issue is here, because it's not just me that wants to understand it. I think the public at large wants to understand what's going on. Now the flight attendants have given notice that they may strike as of Saturday. And because of that, Air Canada can't be in a position where they send a flight out to Greece on Friday, and the flight attendants walk on Saturday, and they've left a plane and a crew and everybody over there.
That's it.
So they start canceling flights immediately to avoid that type of a scenario. So it's still a fluid thing. I'd love to have a little more information. That's just what I've been able to garner so far, but I'll keep you up to date as I learn more because I'm very interested in this topic.
I'm very interested. I didn't realize they didn't clean the plane. That's irrelevant, but I just thought that was part of their duties. And maybe more has been put on them that they feel doesn't, it's not enough for what they've been compensated for the month, that they feel like they deserve more. I don't know what they do on a daily basis, but maybe that's what it is. It's just not enough to cover what they're doing now.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Off topic, switching topics. Do you think Doug Ford is losing it?
Yes.
I think he is too.
I'm sorry, I'm honest, but yeah.
I do, and I've said it many times before. I'm a fan of the premier, and I can take a person and I can look at the good things they do and the bad things they do, and I can separate the two. That's part of the reason that I don't completely hate Donald Trump, because I think Donald Trump has done some things that have been very good for the American people and good for the world. I'm not down on him going to meet with Vladimir Putin this week. I know everybody wants to crap all over him for doing it, but I think it's important that somebody does it and get this conversation started. Now, bringing in the National Guard to police the Capitol there, that's a strange one for me, because police are supposed to police, and military, and in this case, the National Guard, they're there for the defense of the homeland. They are not necessarily there to perform policing functions. And it's weird when you use your own military against your own people.
Yes.
However, I do understand that there is a crime problem, and they're spinning the stats like crazy. Nobody's actually saying how many murders they were. They're just saying things like, but I don't understand. The murder rate is way down. Okay, but still, how many murders is it? I'm told that D.C. is worse than Chicago in some cases. So that aside, I can judge a person based on the individual issues. And whereas I think Doug is doing a lot of great things, I think he's losing his mind when it comes to Donald Trump. I think it's very unbecoming of someone in his position to come so completely unhinged every time the name Donald Trump gets mentioned. And I'm going to play some audio for you in a minute from the premier in what I'm going to say is embarrassing yesterday in Windsor, because he's just not composed. I asked ChatGPT last night, what does it mean when someone gets emotional during a negotiation? And there's like no redeeming qualities about it. It's literally the worst thing you can do is get overly emotional or show that you're getting emotional during a negotiation. So I'm going to be playing some Premier Ford audio for you in a few minutes. But just before we get to that, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Anna, was something that came up on our radio show today. We're on Light 92.1 FM every weekday morning in Southern Ontario. Big station, just about everywhere from Toronto west to London. You can get it. Big footprint. The conversation was uncomfortable because we were talking about sending your kids to university, sending them off to go live in a dorm. And it's tough for a lot of different reasons. I've done this a number of times, Anna. And it's tough because, A, you're saying goodbye. A parent's job is to prepare that bird to fly on its own, right? When you actually drop them off and then drive away without them, that's when that feeling really hits you. And I can't really describe it, but I was overcome with emotion when it happened. And I'm sure a lot of parents feel the same way. When I sent my kids off to university, not even that long ago, the list of what you're supposed to pack was very different from what it is today. And this is the conversation that we had on the radio show today. There's a couple of people suggesting that it's not enough to just get them a mini fridge and some fresh sheets and towels and a shower caddy and some flip-flops for the shower and the typical stuff that you send a kid off to live in a dorm in. You should also be adding things like Plan B, the morning after pill, things like naloxone. And it is scary to even think about. So I tried to treat this with the utmost respect because I know this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people. Nobody wants to think that as soon as they send their kid off to live in a dorm, they're going to start having unprotected sex and need Plan B. But it's Plan B for a reason, and it's a reality for some that this might be necessary. It all began with a TikTok video where a mom was going over what she was packing for her daughter. And the mom, Jamie, and her daughter, Sophia, were openly discussing the fact that there should be some naloxone in the kit that you send your kid to university in. And people in the comments were very judgy. Oh, you've raised a drug dealer, have you? Oh, you've raised a drug addict.
Yes, it's terrible.
I don't necessarily see it that way.
No.
I don't think it's a bad idea to be prepared. And I don't know that you can ever be over prepared. I'd love to think that my kids are not using opioids. But in the event they are, or in the event that they're in a situation where something gets slipped into their drink, or they accidentally ingest some that got mixed in with something else they were doing, or in the event that one of their roommates or friends gets into it, I'd like to know that the naloxone is there and that a life could be saved.
Absolutely. And I think that this parent is doing the right thing. And you're not just saying, oh, now they have everything, go have sex. That's not what she's trying to do here. It's just precautionary. Also, it's great that they're having that conversation. It's not an easy one to have. I couldn't have imagined going to my parents and be like, oh, I'm moving into Hamilton because I lived on West 5th on the mountain when I went to Mohawk for a little bit. If they had said, oh, here's some condoms, here's this, be prepared. I mean, that would have taken so much stress off me because I grew up in such a Portuguese Catholic home. Like I had to pretty much learn everything as I went on my own. And to have had someone to come forward and someone I trusted, I think that's incredible. I think that mom is doing good things.
Well, she's really getting judged for it. And frankly, I see it both ways. I don't think anybody should ever judge the way another person parents. Right? First and foremost, let me say that. But in the comments, people are like, oh, sending plan B with your daughter to university, you're basically inviting her to start having unprotected sex.
No.
I don't know that that's necessarily what the mom is doing there, and I don't believe that's her intention at all, but I think it does come back down to preparedness. But it's still a tough conversation for parents to have with their kids. And it's something tough to go into a pharmacy and say, hey, I'm sending my kid off to university. I need some Plan B and some naloxone.
Yeah, the judge.
The judginess, right? Not to mention, nobody wants to think that their kid is doing something that they wouldn't approve of.
Mm-hmm. That's just the thing. But you just don't know. And they might not even be doing it. But maybe their friend, their new roommate that they're just meeting might be, having sex or doing whatever. It's just nice that there is that option there. Also, some kids like me, we did not have that person that we could go to. And even going to the family doctor, who was my doctor since I was a child, would have felt awkward to go and ask for any sort of, measures to take care of myself. So I think this is a good thing to have on hand. And to be educated. And now that daughter is more aware and she can pass that information on too. I mean, I think this is a good thing. I don't think we should be crapping on this mom, honestly.
Yeah, I think the thought is nobody wants to think that that's the place we're at, that you've got to send naloxone with your kid to university.
It's scary, but it's reality.
Well, the latest numbers are from 2023, but they show an almost 42% increase in the amount of young people using fentanyl.
It's scary, man.
Sorry, that's not using fentanyl. That's misusing fentanyl.
Misusing.
Like using it as a recreational drug.
Wow. That's different from my day.
More than 50,000 18-year-olds in America admitted they had misused fentanyl. That's why you got to send that naloxone kit.
Honestly. Wow.
And I hate to say that, but you do.
Wow. And things get slipped in. To your point, you said that. You never know. I've had friends who got their drinks spiked. So to have something like that is a good thing. I mean, we didn't have that back in the day. You just kind of write it out. But now, I mean, you pray for the best, but at least you have something as a backup just in case.
Another one that is on the list is an electrolyte drip.
A drip?
For when you're really, really, really hungover and you've got to rehydrate. You may have seen this. It's a service that they offer in some cities, including Las Vegas. They'll come to your room and hook up an IV full of electrolytes, and they can get you back from hungover to ready to go in minutes. That's something that some parents are considering sending off to university with their kids. Ooh. And if the reality is that they're going to party, Frosh Week is going to be a disaster, or Pledge Week or Rush Week or whatever you call it, maybe it's not a bad idea to send it. Or maybe this is the other side of it, lay down the damn rules and know you're not going to have unprotected sex, you're not going to drink too much, you're not going to use fentanyl, and that's the end of it. And hope your kid adheres? I don't know.
The more my parents told me not to do something, the more I wanted to do it. I got to be honest, I was that age once. But it is good to have those conversations. My friends do those drips for hangovers. I don't recommend that because you got to find veins. That's a lot. I don't know. Oh, I couldn't imagine as a teen. You just it's a rite of passage. You just deal with your hangover and drink some Gatorade.
You know what, though? Part of the reason we had that conversation this morning on the radio is, and we do try to have real conversations like we do in the pod on the radio. Part of the reason that we did this particular one when we did is because it's happening right now. Now is the time when parents are planning to move their kids into dorms, or maybe you're a getting ready yourself to move into dorms. It's an awkward topic to bring up with your kid. And if we can break the ice, like, hey, I was listening to Scott Fox After 9 today. They were talking about the people that are moving into res and they're bringing naloxone and Plan B.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation. If we can help break the ice and make it easier for you to have that chat with your teenager or your university-bound kid, then I consider this a win. I think it was probably worth 6 or 7 minutes of time in the pod here to bring that up and on the radio today.
Absolutely, because it's not an easy conversation, both for the kid and the parents. And you know what? Even my nephew, he's 23 now, but when he was younger, I actually asked him, I'm like, has anybody ever talked to you, had that sex talk? I know it's uncomfortable, I'm your aunt, but I'm also younger, and I want you to know, I want you to be safe. If there's any questions, anything you need, I will never judge you, but I am here, and I will help you every step of the way. I just needed him to have that one person that he could come to. And, you know, and I didn't tell his dad, I didn't say anything, but I wanted him to know that at least there's somebody. I didn't have that. So
it's good to offer. I don't know how many people take them up on it. If my aunt came to me and said, I'm
cool
here if you ever
aunt.
want to talk, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
I'm a cool aunt. I'm not a regular aunt. I'm a cool tia.
I mean, sure, you think you are. I'd love to know his perspective, though.
Well,
you're an adult who's related to his dad, and I don't know that he is necessarily comfortable talking to you about that. I mean, great, you feel good because you put it out there. I just don't know that that's necessarily, you're ever going to get taken up on that offer.
Sure, he's never come to me now that I think about it.
A crack in the system.
Oh my gosh.
While you're here, Anna, one
Please.
more thing. Canada's international trade and agriculture ministers say they remain ready to engage in constructive dialogue with Chinese officials to address their respective trade concerns. The joint statement from Maninder Sidhu and Heath McDonald comes after China announced a 76% tariff on Canadian canola.
Woo!
I just want to point this out because of the hypocrisy and the blatant bias of the mainstream media in Canada, something that I'm very passionate about. And I'll declare my bias, as I always do. I'm a conservative, and I see things through a conservative lens. But I don't know how anybody, regardless of your political views, can view this any differently. Yesterday, China basically trade attacked Canada, a 76% tariff on our canola farmers. And by the way, they could have announced this months ago when we had time to find other buyers. Mm-hmm. They're waiting until literally days and weeks before we harvest this year's crop. And we may not be able to sell it because they're sure as hell not going to sell it in China with a 76% tariff on it. So what are we going to do here? What are these farmers going to do? Here's the hypocrisy. What do you think the headline in the Toronto Star, the National Post, the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Sun, what do you think the headline in the paper would be today? And on every newscast, radio and television, if Donald Trump had announced yesterday a 76% tariff on anything.
I know. And this one, no one's talking about it.
People would be losing there'd be riots in the streets. That damn Donald Trump and tariffs and China hit us with 76% yesterday and not a word.
I know.
It barely made the news.
Barely.
We're being gaslit. And I just want to point this out so everybody's aware. The next time you watch that national newscast or hear that radio news and you don't hear outrage over the Chinese tariffs against Canada, but you hear tons about what an a-hole Donald Trump is, they're gaslighting you. It's not a huge deal, this trade negotiation. We can work this out. There are solutions available, and I'm going to show you what a solution is in just a sec when you hear from the U.S. ambassador to Canada, who was very frank yesterday when talking to Jazmin Laine. You're going to hear that in minutes here on the podcast. I'm pointing this out because we get gaslit into hating Donald Trump and hating America. Don't go to America. Elbows up. Don't buy American. And maybe they're right about that, but why not China?
Yeah.
Who is double the tariffs that the U.S. has got on us. Double.
It's crazy. Honestly, that was one of the first things I said to you when we talked this morning. I'm like, can you believe this trade? Why? And no one's talking about it. It's at the bottom. You had to scroll, and I found it yesterday, in the media, but no one's talking about it. That's outrageous, the tariffs.
That's the dishonesty of our mainstream media. They're dishonest because they'll present to you every angle and reason to hate Donald Trump and hate America because that's what our leaders want. Doug Ford, Mark Carney, Tim Houston, that Muppet out in Nova Scotia, all of them, they are getting off the hook on everything as long as people are angry at Donald Trump. The entire play is hate Donald Trump, don't pay attention to what's going on here at home. If we truly were worried about tariffs, if we truly were worried about trade agreements and things like that, people would be just as outraged, even more outraged, that China hit us with a 76% tariff yesterday. And it's not even on the news. But America, screw them and ban their alcohol.
Oh my
gosh. It's BS. And again, feel however you want to feel. But I hope that everybody, at least now, can see the gaslighting that's going on, can see the play that's coming out of Ottawa and Queen's Park. The media needs to make everybody angry about America. Don't even worry about China. Because at the end of the day, I don't think our leaders care about the Chinese tariffs. Why is China doing that to us? Because we did it to them. We screwed them with a 100% tariff on Chinese-made cars. Electric vehicles, which I've looked at them on YouTube. I don't see anything wrong with these cars. In fact, as far as cars go, it's got a lot of luxury options at a very affordable price point. But no, we can't have those cars here because we're building battery plants, because we're building our own EV industry. And it's not our own. These are German auto manufacturers. These are Japanese auto manufacturers. They're American auto manufacturers. We don't have a car building industry in Canada. We just have a lot of different car makers that are setting up here, some of them. And we made a huge investment into these battery plants for our own EVs. Well, this doesn't exist yet. These plants aren't built. Nothing is going on. But to stop China from coming into the market and selling their cars here, we slapped them with a 100% tariff. Now China's hitting us back, and the people who are wearing it are our farmers.
I know.
And we can't have this, everybody. Where's the outrage about the Chinese tariffs? Why isn't our government talking about working out a deal with China? I mean, properly talking about it. There should have been a national address from the Prime Minister last night. There's a lot of farming folks out there that are scared right now. 76% tariff, 75.8 actually, to be exact. But again, the media is not covering it because that doesn't fit the narrative. They need you to be angry at Donald Trump so you forget about crime, about immigration, about our healthcare system, about our traffic gridlock, about our education system. So you forget all the failures of our current leadership. They just need you to be angry at Donald Trump. There's a lot of blame for Donald Trump to go around, sure. But I mean, that is not an excuse to let our leaders off the hook. And this, the fact that you do not see this story prominently everywhere today, the fact that people aren't doing the whole elbows up dance because of against China is just proof of what's going on. You can't even deny it anymore. It's right in front of our faces that they are gaslighting us and they're really exploiting this trade disagreement with America. America, 35% tariffs on anything that's not already part of the USMCA. China, 76% tariffs.
What a crazy number.
It's insane.
Oh my
insane.
gosh. And I don't like Donald Trump. I don't believe in his policies and so forth. But I'm not dumb or naive enough to not see what's happening right here. I'm more concerned what's happening to us in Canada, and that is going to affect us. And the farmers, they're already feeling, the heat with everything going on, and this is just going to, put us in such a downward spiral. I can't believe that no one is talking about this. That is a large number. That is a large number to be, and all because we didn't want their cars to come in here.
Well, okay, I know you got to go. So just quickly, the irony here. One of the reasons we don't have a deal with the Americans is because we would not apparently compromise on supply management. Have to protect our dairy farmers.
Right.
But you're going to completely sink the canola farmers.
Well,
so just completely throw them to the wolves. And do you know why that is? You know where canola grows, right?
Yeah, here.
In the West.
Yeah.
In the West. In the West, where they tend to support conservatives.
Yeah.
And the liberals don't care about you because they're not really counting on your vote anyway. They figured out how to win without Western Canada. That's part of the reason it's essential when we do vote. Western Canada has got to stand up, be strong, and make it unanimous.
Yeah.
If the liberals don't support you now, they don't ever deserve your support.
Oh, it's sad, but that's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Because we know, like, anytime we've gone for voting, I'm like, okay, out west, conservative. Now it's like trying to get everybody else to go liberal, so it goes in their favor or whatever the case may be. So it is tragic. Fix the problem. Fix it. This is so big. You cannot hurt people this way, and it's a trickle effect. So if you don't think this is going to affect you, Bet your ass it will. So keep your eyes open for this.
Good luck to Max. I'll be thinking about him.
My baby.
Thanks for coming in for this part of it, Anna.
Hey, and have fun today. I always give back, and I love that about you.
Thank you, Anna. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Now I want to play something for you that is from a fellow podcaster and a fellow broadcaster as well. Jazmin Laine is doing some great stuff on social media. She's a smart podcaster, real well-rounded, I think, perspective on a lot of different issues. I don't agree with her on everything, but I'm certainly interested in hearing her point of view. And she secured an interview with the American ambassador to Canada. I want to play a little bit of this for you. And I'm hoping Jazmin is okay with this. I'll encourage you, please support Jazmin on her YouTube channel, download her podcast and whatever else she has out there. Follow her on social media because she is great and she does offer a perspective that I think is very similar to mine. She interviewed the U.S. ambassador to Canada, and I'm going to play about 2 minutes of her interview with the ambassador. And if you want to hear the rest, again, follow Jazmin. It's at Jazmin Laine. This is very, very telling because we've been told a story here in Canada about what's going on in the negotiations. The Americans are looking at this a very different way, and this is right from the ambassador.
I would maybe add, we've been nicer to Canada at this point than Canada has been to the U.S.
Would you say from what you're seeing, what you're hearing, is there any areas in Canada that have made the current negotiation approach harder to reach a mutually beneficial agreement?
Oh, yeah. I think some of the retaliatory tariffs to the U.S. Are a huge irritant. We have protected the integrity of CUSMA. Okay. Our negotiators have said we are not going to implement tariffs on any products that are covered under CUSMA. Canadians have said, well, those guardrails are off. I think since April, they have been tariffing U.S. products that are part of the CUSMA agreement. Okay, the products that...
Just going to pause it right there, and I'm going to play the rest for you in just a sec. You just heard that. And I'm sure that there's a little bit of bias there because he is representing America's interest. But that's how the Americans see this here. They started off looking for a deal and threatening us with tariffs, and we had a chance to come to the table and work out a deal, but we wanted to retaliate. We started not just responding, but we started tariffing stuff that is part of CUSMA, that's not supposed to be part of this little spat that we're having with the Americans. That's how the Americans are seeing this, and frankly, if you take away all the bias in the media coverage that you get in Canada about this seems very plausible, guys. I tend to believe what he's saying here for the most part. I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but he has no reason to lie about this. This is something that's verifiable, and I'm not even hearing Canadian leaders dispute this. Let's hear the rest of what the ambassador had to say.
Are covered under CUSMA they're going into the U.S. tariff-free, and the ones going north are covered or now have this, I think, 25% tariff on them. Okay. And so what it means is I know from American companies, they're saying, hey, we're basically going into Canada and we can't sell because we've got a 25% tariff while our Canadian competitors are coming into the U.S. with no tariffs at all. You put that together with the actions of your provinces where they're saying in certain cases, they're saying, all right, we're going to first buy product from our province. If the product from our province is not available, we are going to buy Canadian. If there's not a Canadian product available, we're going to buy international. And if there's not an international product available, then we may finally consider buying American or maybe not buying at all. Okay, I think, that the Canadians have gone on those issues, they've gone significantly further than where the U.S. has gone. Canada is calling into question the future of CUSMA. It's not the United States of America. It's Canada.
Wow. Again, take it with a little bit of salt there, just a little bit. But that's the American perspective, and that's not the story that we've been told here. But that's not the story they would tell us here, is it? We're the good guys, and they're the bad guys. Is it possible that that's reversed? Is it possible that the theory I floated out there numerous times over the last number of weeks, that Canada doesn't actually want a deal with America, is it possible that maybe that is the truth? Think about it. If we have a deal with America, Carney's going to have to give up something that he probably doesn't want to give up. That's going to make him unpopular here in Canada because of the elbows up, folks. Don't give up anything. Fight to the death. Rah! That bravado. If he makes a deal, he's probably going to have to give up something, and then this goes away. And right now, they don't want Donald Trump to go away. Every minute that Mark Carney and Doug Ford can go on television and complain about Donald Trump is another minute that they're not talking about the crisis in our healthcare system, the crisis with our immigration system, our housing crisis, our crime crisis, the amount of people lined up at food banks. Canada is basically unrecognizable in a lot of ways compared to the way it was 5-10 years ago. A lot has changed, and the prime minister and the premiers have got a lot to be accountable for, but they're not being held to account right now because they've got us all convinced that Donald Trump is bad and we're the good guys. I'm not saying we're not the good guys. I'm just saying that's an interesting perspective, and maybe it's worth thinking about it from that lens. Yeah, the Americans started this. They threatened us with tariffs, and it was over a BS reason. Okay. We had a choice in how we responded. Maybe it would have been different if Carney was in power then instead of Trudeau. I don't know. But either way, we had a choice, and we can control our response. What did we do? We went on television and trash talked their president. We banned their liquor from our country. We put up retaliatory tariffs. Only 2 countries in the world did that: China and Canada. Why is that? Is anybody in Ottawa rethinking the response that we've had to this? Because I thought that was a very telling interview. Again, thank you very much to Jazmin Laine in advance for allowing me to use that clip. Jazmin, I think you're a listener, so I appreciate you for doing that, and I'm happy to support you as well. And please check out Jazmin's social media if you want to see the rest of that interview with the American ambassador to Canada. One more thing I'm going to do on this slightly abbreviated episode of Scott Fox After 9. I want to take you to Windsor, Ontario yesterday, where Ontario Premier Doug Ford was giving a news conference. Listen to this.
Folks, we all know this is a serious time for our province and our country, with President Trump taking direct aim at our economy. Our government is doing everything in its power to cut red tape and make Ontario and Canada the strongest economy in the G7. As I always say, the foundation of our healthcare, of our education, of our infrastructure is our economy. And without our economy, we don't get the new hospitals and the new schools and the infrastructure, the highways, and so on and so forth. So we have to make sure it's...
I'm just going to point out here, we pay a ton of money in taxes to live here, and that's what our taxes are supposed to pay for. The schools, the roads, the hospitals. Now, in this case, Doug is there because a private donor announced a massive donation, and that's what's advancing this hospital. Come on. We have money for these things. To say Donald Trump is the reason we can't have new roads in Canada is actually crazy. That's a lot of hyperbole from the premier. I'm just calling it out, calling it the way I see it.
Very attractive for companies around the world. And we've done that. And we need to have continuous improvement, constantly looking at ways to create more opportunities. And the numbers came out a few weeks ago, direct foreign investment. And thanks to Windsor and every other municipality, the numbers were strong. This is excluding all the expansions that we saw. But in 2024, we saw 409 companies, foreign companies, come here to invest. And they invested $39.875 billion, so let's say $40 billion, and create 25,000 new jobs. That's how we're going to beat President Trump, making sure we're more competitive than they are. And when we aren't competitive, well, they go elsewhere. So we'll make sure we continue to make Windsor and this whole region and Ontario a very competitive place to invest. In the past 4.5 years, Ontario has attracted $46 billion of investment, be it in vehicle manufacturing and the EV battery supply chain, and that represents over 50,000 direct jobs here in Windsor and across Ontario, including the new $5 billion Stellantis plant, the battery plant. We're keeping an eye on that, a sharp eye on that. And
I mean, let's not take a victory lap out of things that are not built yet and jobs that are not being worked in yet. Because I still think anything could happen. You know, Doug said the way we're going to beat America is being a more attractive place to invest. Ask yourself that. If you had money to invest in a business, where would you invest it? Would you invest it in America, where they've got a ton of incentives to set up a business there right now? And not to say that we don't. We do. But we still have so much red tape. We have one of the highest labor costs in the world. There's so many different factors that go into this. Where would you set up a business if you had a choice? Hey, Michigan's offering me a ton of money and Sarnia is offering me a ton of money. Well, a lot of people are going to pick Michigan. They are. It's all there is to it. These battery plants, the Stellantis one, the VW one, I don't know if they're ever going to get built. I really don't know. What are we doing here? Where are they? Part of the reason that we've got a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs is to protect the EV industry here in Ontario, which doesn't actually exist yet. It's not built. I'm a little skeptical about these numbers. Certainly appreciate the intention. Certainly agree with the sentiment that, yeah, we do need to attract investment here. We do need to make this the best place in the world to do business. But to do that, a lot of things need to happen. And the two big ones are taxes got to go way down and interest rates got to go way down. One of those things is partially in Doug Fort's control. One of them is not in his control.
And right here in Windsor, which will help secure Ontario's place as North American hub for building the cars and the batteries of the future. In the face of tariffs from President Trump, our government will always have the backs of the auto workers and any manufacturing workers. That means equipping them with the skills and the supports to keep them on the job no matter what. And I've always said I won't spare a penny to make sure we protect communities, businesses, protect families and their jobs. We're also making record investments in roads, highways, transit, hospitals, schools, and homes. Through our $200 billion plan to build Ontario, we're preparing for growth and keeping workers on the job. Here in Windsor, we're expanding Highway 3 from 2 to... I have to tell you, folks, as I mentioned just at the hospital that I was at, and, you know, we have two choices with President Trump. You roll over or you fight like we've never fought before. And I think all 41 million Canadians would rather fight like they've never fought before. We're going to get through this. There'll be a few bumps in the road, but we're going to make ourselves the most competitive jurisdiction anywhere in the G7 for companies to come here and attract, and no matter if it's the economic development departments within your regions or Vic Fideli flying all over the world and attracting new companies. And I had a meeting with Vic the other day, our Minister of Economic Development and Trade, and we saw a list, 3 pages long. And as he said, the pipeline is absolutely jammed with companies that want to come here. And I'll tell you, when you create that environment and conditions for companies to come here, they'll come here. But our number one selling feature are the people. We have the highest skilled people anywhere in the entire world. We graduate 70,000 STEM graduates, and some right in this area. But that's not it. We're going to move that up to 100,000. And no U.S. state can say they're graduating 70,000, not to mention 100,000. And I met with a few companies, and the first thing that came out of their mouth, Mayor, was the talent pool here. You can't beat the talent pool.
Well, the problem is the talent pool is leaving rapidly because there's no jobs for them. Worst youth unemployment in decades. Great. We're graduating 70,000, going up to 100,000. All people that are going to be standing at the U.S. border or the European borders with their degree in their hand saying, I'm trained in Ontario and I need a job. The one thing Ontario doesn't seem to have and nobody seems to care about. Youth unemployment is at just astonishingly high levels. My own kid came back from being educated in America, looked for a job for 8 months, didn't get a single call back, and bam, now he's working for an American company. And he has got a STEM degree. It's It's ridiculous. Just crazy what's going on in this province. Just absolutely mind-numbing.
Hello, Premier. Megan from AM 800 News.
Hi, Megan.
Tariffs have obviously been top of mind, especially here in Windsor, Essex, by being a border city. What are the next steps in terms of talks with the Prime Minister and other premiers across Canada to keep ensuring that working individuals are protected?
Well, I'm going to see the Prime Minister up in Ottawa. I think it's next week. When is it, Jules? Monday, okay. See, I listen to the boss there. So Monday I'm going up to have a one-on-one meeting with the Prime Minister, and I've told him how I feel. We got to create the environment, and just a few things we can do can really change things. Number one, we're taxed to death. Simple as that. And, highest tax bracket's 54%. And believe me, you don't have to be making millions to be at 54%. You make a couple $100,000 and 54%. And when you go out shopping, all the taxable goods that you buy, so we're left with nothing in our pockets. And Economics 101, put money into people's pockets. They're going to go out and spend it. As simple as going out for dinner, buying a pair of sneakers, buying jeans. That stimulates the economy. And that $3 billion we gave back to the taxpayers this year, they went out and they spent it. And I'm happy they did spend it. And then you do the same for the companies. That's actually, the companies even probably more important. You reduce the corporate tax. When I had our facility, when I opened up in 98, 99 and in the U.S. in Chicago, going into 2000, the Canadian corporate tax was lower than the U.S. So let's beat Trump at his own game. Let's make this the most competitive place in the world, because companies nowadays have choices. They're either going to go to a competitive place with great, smart people, or they're going somewhere else, and they're going to get lower taxes. And we need to lower those taxes to create an environment for companies to invest. So when I came into office, the budget was $150 billion. We saw $70 billion of investment. We grew the revenues to $70 billion. I'd never raise a tax. I don't have to. I will never raise a tax, because it's counterintuitive to have people invest. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to make sure we're competitive. So number one, lower taxes. Number two, let's get rid of the HST. I will follow that on anyone that buys a home, not just new home buyers, but anyone. And let's do it to a point of 2 years, so it puts pressure on the market. If you go out there and say we're getting rid of it for 10 years, well, everyone's going to la-di-da, la-di-da. Let's lower that, right? In 2 years, lower the HST. That's massive amounts of savings for people. When you're buying a home, $600,000, $700,000, $900,000, or even $1 million, that saves a lot of money. And I don't know your development charges here, but I'll just speak for Toronto. Before you get shovels in the ground, it's like $140,000, $150,000. It's over more than 200. It's probably closer to $300 a square foot. So they have to pitch in as well. And the last thing, message to the governor of the Bank of Canada: you have to lower those interest rates. We're at 2.75%. You said you'd lower them if we were below 2% inflation. We're at 1.9%. Start creating the environment. You play a massive role in making sure our economy goes. So you can't be sitting back. And in my opinion, just my personal opinion, the economy at this point in time trumps inflation. We can hold inflation, but you have to lower interest rates. And then people will go out there and buy homes. So you put those few things together, and our economy is going to take off like that. This is a no-brainer. So me and my friend up in Ottawa, we're going to have a heart-to-heart. Well, he knows how I feel already, but he's doing a good job, by the way, too.
Yeah, got to throw in that little dig that Carney's doing a good job. Again, I see no evidence of that. Doug is quite right, though, about a number of different things there, although talking out of both sides of his mouth. Let's talk about how that started. He was talking about how uncompetitive we are. Yet just a few minutes ago, he talked about this long list, 3 pages long, of companies that want to come here. He himself said companies are going to go where they can set up for the most affordable, reasonable amount. He himself set up a business in Chicago, not here. He does have a business here, though, in fairness. Listen, we're not competitive. Doug said it. He just said it. 54% in taxes. Why would anyone set up a business here like that? Especially when we've got interest rates that are out of control. Why would anyone do that? And he's up there going on about, we're going to be the most competitive place in the G7. Well, clearly we're not. Clearly we're not. However, what Doug is proposing is spot on. Yes, sir. I will kick down a door for you if you can get that done. Whatever you want me to do, I am on side with you here, Doug. Get those interest rates down, way down. That's going to help. We can start building houses again when interest rates come down. Interest rates are holding up the real estate market. They're costing people a fortune, and there's a lot of developers that don't want to build because those interest rates are too high. And in some cases, they can't even get financing. Tiff Macklem has screwed this country so badly. It's time to undo the damage and drop interest rates substantially. Doug Ford, you lead the charge, and I am right there with you, my friend. I am on it. I got your back. Cut the HST on new homes or all homes. Yeah. Again, seems like a no-brainer. Seems like a no-brainer. I mean, Pierre Poilievre promised to do that. I don't know why he didn't support Pierre when Pierre promised to do it, but here we are. He's going to pressure his friend in Ottawa to do that. I fully support that. Lower taxes. Yes. God damn it. Lower taxes. Come on. What are we waiting for? Doug's trying to make us more competitive, and we've got the Bank of Canada and the federal government squarely in the way. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to end on this because I've talked about this a number of times lately. By the way, those were really good words from Premier Ford. Support him wholeheartedly there. He's really got to hold it together when it comes to negotiating with Donald Trump. I referenced this earlier. Every time Trump's name comes up, he sounds like my dad. Donald Trump. It comes completely unhinged. Listen to this from yesterday. Same news conference.
So I appreciate the question. Sorry, I'm getting a little passionate today about this because that guy drives me crazy down south, I'll tell you. And 41 million other Canadians. So.
Yeah, relax, Doug. And it's not 41 million. He's got a lot of support here. Despite what you want to say, no, not everybody hates the guy. Stop taking shots at Donald Trump. Stop coming completely unglued every time his name comes up. Hold some composure. Be professional. If you're the guy, if you have a vested interest in this, is the Premier of Ontario, the biggest province in Canada, I think you deserve a seat at the table, Doug, and you've had some success in negotiating with the American side. You can't be this emotional about it. We get it. You don't like the guy. Move on. Play your cards right. I'm pretty sure that if we ask Donald Trump to be honest, there's a lot of Canadian politicians, yourself included, Doug, that Donald Trump is not that fond of. He doesn't even acknowledge it. Why are you acknowledging it? Why are you getting all hot every time his name comes up? Jesus, hold it together. It's getting embarrassing here. But anyway, some good, some bad, and all of that in this episode of After 9. Have a great day, friends. I will catch you right back here tomorrow.